guys, how's it going? So I'm excited to show you my October spread. You'll notice right here that I actually penciled in a lot of stuff, and that's just because I wanted to do something really elaborate, and I normally don't go this elaborate. If you are familiar with my channel, then you'll see that a lot of my spreads are very simple. But for some reason, I'm like super in the Halloween mood this month, and I just really wanted to make something extra special and extra fun. I really get excited about Halloween, and so I wanted to make something really different from what I normally do. So I thought it would be nice to kind of just go through each of the layouts that I'm doing in real time for the most part. So this video is a little bit long, but I hope you just are finding it interesting and don't mind sticking around. So I did want to point out that a lot of the imagery that I'm using was kind of inspired by or derived from images I saw on Pinterest. And I'm not claiming them as my own, obviously, because I'm not trying to like sell my bullet journal or anything, but I thought it would be really nice to kind of show you how I go about recreating them and making them my own. Sometimes I feel like we see different artworks and we're like, what? Like, how did they do that? Where would I even start? So this is kind of just my way of showing you how I would do it. And so for this lettering, I just wanted to kind of do something that was a little bit whimsical and similar to kind of a font that I've seen before. And so what I'm using right now is actually a micron, kind of like a fakey micron. I have micron pens, but the ones that I have are kind of dying out. And so I thought, you know what, let me try one from Wish. And so this one is actually from Wish. It was advertised as micron. It is not. It is called like a Kinbo needle drawing pen. And I'm happy to report it is actually really great quality. I like it a lot. So if you were interested in buying one and wasn't sure if you should try it or not, I would recommend it. The only thing I will mention that is kind of a downside is that it does tend to bleed. Here I'm just showing you the pen that I'm using to create the detail on the lettering. So you'll see that I erased my pencil marks, and now I'm just kind of adding a little bit of like tiny thin hair-like strokes just to add some texture to the lettering, because I wanted to keep this all black and white. So rather than adding coloring, I did that, but you can always obviously do it however you want. And honestly, I would love to see how you guys do it. If you recreate any of this, I would love to see your work. So on Instagram, if you happen to post it, be sure to tag me at Girl Meets Bujo, so that way I can kind of just see how you made it your own. I'd love to see that. And then in my next video, I will feature all the people that tagged me and kind of did their own version of it. So anyways, back to the pen, I just wanted to say that the only downside was that when you write over kind of like other water-based inks, it does tend to bleed a tiny little bit, which if you use microns, you know that they don't. So that was the only drawback, but it's not something that's like life-changing, and I'm not using this pen as like my main pen. But for something that was so cheap, I wanted to just give it a shot, and it's pretty good. I like it. This one is a 0.3 milliliter tip, and it's pretty accurate. So anyways, moving on from that, I'm not like sponsored by Wish or anything, I just wanted to share that. So right now I'm doing a spider web, and so I'm just kind of doing like the core outline of that. And I noticed that my Pilot G-Tech pen kind of streaks a little bit when I erase it. So I try to erase all of my pencil marks when I can after I do the micron or like the heavier weight pen, because that one doesn't streak at all when I erase it. So I'm going through and I'm doing all of the lines of the spider web with my Pilot G-Tech, because I really wanted to create kind of dimension with that, and so I felt like doing this with the much finer tip is going to kind of make the outline stand out a little bit more. And so I think it might have been easier if I just like did the whole top row at once and then the second row at once, but I didn't. I went about going each section at a time. So try it this way, try it the other way, and see what works for you. I'm just gonna speed this up a little bit because it's essentially this only multiplied a few more times. Okay, so the spider web is done. You'll see I added like a little bit of like a darker detail to the tips just to kind of make it a little bit more spooky or what have you. So now I'm just adding some flourishes on the side. These are, when I drew them with pencil, they were pretty organic. I just wanted to make sure that they were symmetrical, so I tried to kind of just make it work. And then I thought it would be kind of fun to just, like add some of those little extra details on the end just to kind of match with the spider web, so it's kind of like little wisps coming off of it. And then from there, I drew a couple of spiders hanging down. I wanted to make it look as though one of them is a little bit lower than the other, so you'll see I kind of went back and did that. And then when I get to that spider, you'll see that obviously I'm drawing it below that, so a lot of my pencil marks are kind of just like guides, but they're not really like true to what I have to do. And then so now I'm just kind of drawing the little spider in my Pilot G-Tech pen just because I wanted it to stand out a little bit. And I did notice that the I guess like pigmentation of the micron, the fakey micron, is not as dark. So it's kind of just like a washed out, like slightly faded black. And because my Pilot is a really, really true black, it's kind of a nice contrast. So yeah, I just added a couple little spiders there just to kind of have some fun. And then next, you'll see that I have the 2018 below. So when I do that, I'm essentially going to do just the exact same thing that I did with the October, but just with 2018. All right, so now it's the fun top part. I thought it would be cool to start with the bat. I actually, when I sketched it with my pencil, I started off doing the wings first. So I don't know, I think maybe doing that first is good because then you know how tall to make your bat. Just because I wanted to point that out because I started tracing the bat first and then filling in the wings, but just when you're actually drawing it, to me it felt easier to start off with the wings first. And the good thing about the Leuchtturm notebook is that it has the dots, or anyone that uses a dot grid, it's nice because then you can really make it symmetrical. With the spider web, I wasn't really too worried about making it like exactly symmetrical, but with the bat, I did want to because I felt like that was kind of important. And so now I'm adding some more of those kind of wispy edges, and you'll see soon that I'm going to be adding a little bit of like spider web details to it, and then I'm also going to add some kind of hairline strokes to the bat, also just to kind of give it some more detail. And for those, I'm going to be using my Pentel or my Pilot G-Tech pen, again, just to make it stand out a bit. So that is my cover page, and now I'm going to do my month at a glance. Um, I've started doing a month at a glance every single month now because I found that it's so useful. Because for my overall calendar, I use the Calendex system, which I love. The only thing is that you can't really see the detail on it. So here is a good chance for me to be able to see all the things that I have going on in the month, at least the main events, just in one spot. So in terms of the lettering, I'm gonna basically do the exact same lettering here as I did for the heading page, the header page, just to keep it consistent. So I'll let you check that out. So here I forgot to show you what I'm using, but if you can tell, it's a Zebra Mild Liner in orange. Um, I'm just doing a little doodling session here of some candy cane and like a little jack-o'-lantern. And I'm aware that the coloring I chose for the candy corn, did I say candy corn or something else? I think I might have said candy cane. Anyways, the candy corn, um, it's not really true to what a real candy corn looks like, but I don't care. I just wanted to do colors that I wanted to use. So, yeah, have some liberty, do whatever you want. So I'm just using the Tombow twin tone markers to kind of just fill in the colors on the either side of the highlighter. And the reason I did the highlighter in the middle is because the other two are very similar in shade, as you can tell. They're not so similar in person, but they definitely are similar. And then I'm using just another one of those to fill in the jack-o'-lantern. And with that, I did sketch it out first, and the reason is because I wanted to do the little, like the mouth and the eyes, and I feel like it's harder to freehand that to make sure that you don't kind of fill the black spots in with color. Granted, you could always draw over it with the black, but it's not as clean. So yeah, I did that. And then I'm just going over it with the Micron and kind of just adding outlines and detail lines just to make sure that it, pops from the page. And here is where I noticed that it starts to bleed because when I'm going over the Tombow twin tone pens, you'll see in the tiny corner of that second candy corn that it does start to bleed a little bit. Again, it's not like huge and noticeable, but it's there, and it's something that I just noticed as I was writing. Um, so yeah, I'm just adding a little bit of detail to this, and I'm going to add another spider web on the other corner, and that's pretty much it for my month at a glance. So the next page that I'm doing is my waiting on page, and if you are not familiar with what this is basically just anything that I'm waiting on for the month, whether it's packages or someone returning an email or a phone call or whatever it is that I'm waiting on that I need to kind of just make sure gets followed through, I put here. Now, last month I actually did a waiting on per week, and I ended up finding that that was kind of annoying because, say, like the following week would come and the things that I had before that weren't fulfilled. Sorry about the glare here. I tried to adjust the lighting and totally backfired, but it won't last long, I promise. So, anyways, I found that when I did that, when I had my waiting on the week prior and I had to push it over to the next week, it was really just more work than anything. So, I'm going back to having waiting on be just in my main monthly pages, and it'll just be a running list. And, once things happen, I'll just cross them off. So I changed up the lettering here on the header because I wanted to do something a little bit different. So first I'm starting off by just doing some block lettering. And I did these in pencil initially just so I can get the spacing of the letters just right. But I didn't I didn't like letter them in pencil like in the thickness I wanted just because I knew that I was just going to figure that out on my own. And so I'm going to add a little like kind of like block shadow, drop shadow to this and fill in with some cross lines. So I'll just kind of let you check that out. Okay, so back to what I said earlier about getting like inspiration from Pinterest. I don't know if you guys seen it, but there's an image of a hand holding up some flowers, but instead of the flowers being there, it's replaced by skulls. So I kind of took that as inspiration to do this next drawing. So I'm drawing skulls, and I'm not actually making those part of my stems. I'm going to be doing the stems next to them. And I did roses because I wanted to kind of symbolize like black roses, even though they're not filled in, they're going to be black and white. And I also didn't do a hand because I just felt like that was too obvious, really copying it, and completely unnecessary. And then at the end, you'll notice that I use a calligraphy brush pen to do the ribbon because I'm going to add a ribbon to this. And that was actually also a brush pen from Wish. So that's actually really, really good brush pen. I actually like it more than my Tombow Fudenosuke. So if you want a brush pen, I would highly recommend trying it. I'm going to link both of those pens from Wish below in the description box, so be sure to check it out and see if you want it for yourself. So every month I do a mood page. Um, and this, I know a lot of people do this for various reasons. The reason I do it, which is something that's really very private, but I feel like I owe it to you guys to be honest and transparent, is because I actually have bipolar disorder, and so I tend to go through pretty drastic mood swings, whether I'm super elated or kind of more depressed, and I think it's really important for me to keep track of those various mood swings and kind of just see if anything triggers them or if there's something that's kind of more prevalent per month or what have you. So when I do my mood trackers, I don't typically make them very complicated. I usually just monitor just like 2 or 3 moods. So that is really just because I want to kind of gauge the overall feeling because every day is different, but I just wanted to make sure that I'm aware if I have really extreme days in a row or really low days and kind of just gauge it from there. So for that being said, here is the title. So what I'm doing is a little banner, and this for sure needs to be penciled in first because I wanted to do negative space. So because I wanted to do the word and these kind of like diagonal um, lines all in negative space, you'll see that later I end up coloring in the word just so it can differentiate from the white space so that way it's not all kind of blending in together. So you'll see that I'm using the brush pen for this, which I think is great because then it lets you color in more evenly and with broader strokes than you could with a micron. The brush pen worked really well for this, especially for when you're outlining the different lines. The fine tip helps to just kind of make sure that you get really crisp, clean lines. So I'm going to let you take a look and see how I did this. And yeah, again, I would love to see if you guys adapt this yourself and kind of try this method in your own ways. So if you've seen my videos, then you'll notice that um, my mood trackers are always very different and artistic. I don't like to do kind of just like a chart. Not like there's anything wrong with that, but that's just not what I like to do. I'm like a super creative person, and I just like to have it be a little bit more interesting for me to fill out. Plus, I like to see kind of an image unveil itself throughout the course of the month. So here, what I'm doing is I'm doing a candy theme. So using a compass, I did the first two circles. The top circle is going to be a popsicle or like a lollipop, and the bottom circle is going to be just like a little wrapped candy. And then I'm going to add also a giant candy corn. And so what I'm doing with these is I'm breaking them up to be the days of the week. So I'm going to do 10, 10, and 11. And that is just so that way there is one spot for each day, and I just color it in depending on the mood for that day. Okay, so now we're on to the final spread, which is actually my first week. I do a lot of, well, not a lot, I do a few different layouts per week, and this has kind of become one of my favorites. I haven't done it in a while just because of the setup, and I've been simplifying to something quicker, but because I have the time right now to kind of sit down and do it, I really wanted to do it. So typically I make these boxes 14 by 8, but just as like a subtle little thing because it's the month of Halloween, I did 13 by 8. It's super lame, I know, super, super lame. But yeah, just so you know, these are 13 by 8, typically 14. And so what I did first was I just kind of, you'll see I did those little tiny little, I guess like L-shaped pieces, and that's just to show me where my corners are for each square rather than drawing the whole lines and having to erase the whole lines. And so then what I do is I do 8 boxes, and that's because I want to do my 7 days of the week, and then I also do a box for the following week, just if there's anything I need to note down quickly, and I just put that there. I found that having that is really, really useful. So I like to keep these really open and plain because if they're busy, then it's hard for me to really focus on what actually is happening during the day, which then kind of defeats the whole purpose of having a bullet journal or a planner. So yeah, I'm going to just show you what I'm doing here. Basically just filling out my days of the week. I'm going to do a to-do list on the right, and then on the left, I'm going to fill in my monthly calendar because I like to have like a cute, like a visual of like the month at a glance, just right there. And then also my habit tracker, which I've totally pared down from what it used to be. I used to have like 7 to 9 different things I tracked, and I was like, this is ridiculous. So now it's just tracking like my water intake and whether or not I take my prescriptions and my vitamins. So yeah, let me just show you what's going on. So that's it. I hope you guys liked this video. If you do, please give it a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe because I'm going to be adding some more fun videos like this. And comment below if you have any suggestions for things that you'd like to see. Be sure to tag me on Instagram at Girl Meets Bujo. Thanks so much. Bye.